First I want to say is I'm sorry for hurting you and cheating on you with your best friend. And your best friend is a slut, and I don't like her. She's gross, and I can give a fuck less. Alright? So, this video is like an apology to you. And the girl I'm talking about is Tawny. And I'm trying to get her back to be with me so I can keep her again and for her to give me another chance. Because I'm in love with her and I love her and I want her back. And I'll do anything I have to do to show her that I can be a better girlfriend.
Victoria Mendoza, she was like the female version of a rebellious bad boy, tattooed, wild, and not afraid to bend the rules. But behind her tough exterior was a darker reality. When Tawny Baird, a 17-year-old girl, fell for Victoria in 2004, warning signs were there. Sadly, like many abusive relationships, Tawny realized too late that she wanted out. This case delves into the shocking events leading to Tawny's brutal murder at 21 and explores the twisted mind of her killer, who turned to TikTok for social media fame. Welcome to Mysterious Oracle, where we unravel mysterious, terrifying cases worldwide. But before we begin, our hearts go out to the loved ones of those affected by the events in this story. Welcome to Salt Lake City, Utah, a picturesque city nestled in the Rockies, known for its national parks and ski resorts. One of its charming suburbs, Holiday, was where Tawny Baird, a 17-year-old girl with dreams as big as her smile, grew up. Despite her parents' separation when she was young, Tawny had a loving, blended family. She was affectionately called Ladybug and described as warm, engaging, and ambitious. Tawny had her sights set on a career in music. She was talented and driven, with a circle of loyal friends. However, her loyalty would soon lead her into trouble. In 2010, during a routine drive with friends, Tawny's life took a sharp turn when they were stopped by the police. Like many teens, they occasionally dabbled in alcohol and marijuana. But in Salt Lake City, where strict laws reflect religious and moral beliefs, this incident would change Tawny's life forever. In Utah, possessing a controlled substance as an adult can lead to a criminal record and time in prison. Tawny's friends were all 18 at the time. Thinking quickly, 17-year-old Tawny took the blame for the bong and weed. However, this decision had serious consequences. She faced charges for possession and was placed in the care of Child and Family Services, then sent to a youth health treatment facility for 90 days. For a girl from Holiday, a middle-class suburb, juvenile detention was a scary experience. Tawny found herself surrounded by tough kids with troubling backgrounds, some involved in gangs and violent activities. Her mom was worried sick, knowing Tawny was a homebody. Enter Victoria Ashley Mendoza, also 17. They say opposites attract, and that was certainly true for Tawny and Victoria. Victoria, born to Mexican immigrants, had a tough life. Her father's suicide when she was young plunged her family into hardship. Victoria's behavior became increasingly troubled, leading to multiple run-ins with the law. Yet despite her troubled past, her rebellious demeanor drew others to her, including Tawny. Victoria embodied everything society deemed rebellious and forbidden, which appealed to Tawny's vulnerable side. Whether Victoria's behavior stemmed from teenage distress or a deeper issue remains unclear. Nevertheless, her allure to Tawny was undeniable. Victoria also represented security and survival, skills vital in the harsh environment of juvenile detention. But what really bonded Tawny and Victoria was their shared love for music. Around the same time, Victoria received heartbreaking news. Her mother had aggressive breast cancer. Tawny stood by her, deepening their connection. When Tawny's mom visited, instead of tears, there was talk of Victoria. Tawny, who had previously only dated boys, revealed she was gay. Her parents embraced her new relationship, showing unwavering support. Released from detention in August 2010, Tawny and Victoria exchanged letters, promising to wait for each other. In one letter, Victoria's words hinted at something darker. Despite this, Tawny couldn't stop talking about her, In September, instead of visiting her sick mother, Tawny went to pick up Victoria from the center with her father. Victoria's appearance surprised Tawny's father, who felt uneasy but chose to support their relationship. Tawny's friends were also taken aback but accepted Victoria. However, Victoria's curiosity about Tawny's past relationships raised eyebrows. Despite the challenges, social media depicted Tawny and Victoria as a glamorous, crazy-in-love couple, seemingly perfect for each other. Tawny's best friend, Lacey, noted their genuine connection. Victoria then took Tawny to her mother's house in Ogden, known for its issues with gangs and crime. There, Tawny met Victoria's wild friends who had a different lifestyle from hers. Tawny noticed Victoria carrying a knife, a hobby of hers. As they spent more time together, signs of trouble emerged. Tawny's father sensed Victoria's jealousy and insecurity, contrasting with Tawny's trust and playfulness. Victoria's jealousy flared, especially with male friends, leading to arguments and ruined nights out. Some of Tawny's friends distanced themselves, while others, like Lacey, tried to befriend Victoria to support Tawny. However, Lacey realized Victoria had a short temper, making her wary. In June 2012, Victoria's mother passed away, leaving her without parents or a job. Despite the challenges, the girls had been together for 2 years, and Tawny's parents supported Victoria through her loss. The Bairds graciously welcomed Victoria into their home, treating her like family. Casey Baird saw Victoria as another daughter, and Dana embraced her as a second mom. However, their differences strained their relationship. Victoria grew increasingly jealous of the attention Tawny received from both boys and girls, unable to see Tawny's unwavering devotion to her. Ironically, it was Victoria who cheated on Tawny, seeking revenge with one of Tawny's female friends. Their breakup was final, with Tawny firm on not taking Victoria back. Victoria attempted to reconcile through a YouTube apology video, revealing her possessive nature and desire to control Tawny's affections. Despite warnings from friends and family, Tawny took Victoria back, blindsided by what she perceived as romantic gestures. Casey Baird regretted not intervening sooner, sensing something was wrong. Unfortunately, female abusers like Victoria often go unnoticed. Despite heated arguments and occasional physical altercations, the couple would reconcile, hiding their issues from Tawny's mother. Unaware of the escalating abuse, Dana Baird believed they had raised a strong, confident daughter. However, behind closed doors, Tawny suffered in silence. Victoria displayed remarkable skill in acting, lying, and manipulating those around her, concealing her true nature adeptly. While Tawny's father recalls only one instance of having to intervene in a physical altercation between the girls. Behind closed doors, their relationship was slowly unraveling. The recurring theme throughout their relationship was Victoria's deep-seated paranoia that Tawny might revert to liking guys, potentially leading to her leaving or cheating on Victoria. Despite their frequent fights, Tawny's close friends observed a troubling pattern. The more they argued, the more reliant they seemed to become on each other. Despite their best efforts to maintain a facade of happiness, the toxic undercurrents in their relationship became increasingly difficult to disguise. Following one particularly violent outburst, Tawny confided in Lacey, expressing genuine fear for her safety at the hands of Victoria. Meanwhile, Tawny's mother, Dana, couldn't ignore the signs of an unhealthy dynamic between the girls. Victoria's relentless efforts to keep Tawny isolated and under her control only served to escalate tensions further. However, the breaking point came when an innocuous text message from a male friend triggered a violent reaction from Victoria, resulting in a brutal physical assault on Tawny that left her blood-eyed and missing a front tooth. In the aftermath of the assault, Dana was faced with a difficult decision. While she grappled with the desire to protect Victoria from potential legal repercussions, her primary concern remained Tawny's safety and well-being. Despite Tawny's pleas to avoid involving the authorities, Dana ultimately made the difficult choice to call the police, recognizing the gravity of the situation and the need for intervention to ensure her daughter's safety. Witnessing the aftermath of the assault, Tawny's father was overcome with devastation and guilt, realizing the severity of the situation and the profound impact it had on his daughter's physical and emotional well-being. Victoria claimed they were attacked by a gang in Ogden, a story Tawny supported, even repeating it to the doctor. This deeply distressed her friends and mother, who couldn't understand why she stayed in the relationship. Despite Tawny losing her front tooth in the assault, she acted as if nothing happened. Things were escalating quickly, with no one realizing how unstable Victoria had become. In February 2014, Victoria made a troubling confession on Facebook, hinting at her reckless behavior. Around the same time, Tawny confided in her stepmother, Becca Murray, expressing fear that Victoria would harm her if she tried to leave. Tawny endured the abuse and lived in constant fear, pretending to be happy to avoid further harm. Despite Dana recognizing Victoria's unhealthy obsession with Tawny, she felt trapped with Victoria, who had no job or place to live. Desperate to improve the situation, Dana and her husband helped Victoria secure a job as a security guard, hoping it would bring stability. Tawny's grandmother even assisted in removing some of Victoria's tattoos. With both Tawny and Victoria starting new jobs and Tawny enrolling in college, things seemed to be improving. However, on October 17, 2014, Tawny's best friend, Lacey, invited them to a party across town. As the night progressed, tensions rose, with Victoria feeling neglected and losing control over Tawny.
Eventually, Victoria insisted they leave the party early, and Tawny reluctantly agreed, driving Lacey home before expressing love to both girls. Just hours later, a call from Victoria on Tawny's phone would send shockwaves through their circle of friends. Aaron, typically avoiding late-night calls, made an exception when Victoria persistently dialed his number. The urgency in her voice prompted him to put the call on speaker, recording the conversation. Victoria's distress was palpable as she revealed a chilling confession. She had just taken someone's life. Her words conveyed a mixture of fear and confusion, leaving Aaron stunned.
Hey, where's Tawny?
She's dead. Yes, I actually killed someone. She was searching me the fuck out. Do you understand? I went crazy, like I didn't need to do it, you know? And then I realized that's where the show someone. Oh my gosh, you guys, I'm so scared. You have no idea how scared I am.
Curiously, she refrained from mentioning Tawny's name until prompted about her whereabouts. There was no mention of Tawny's fate, only Victoria's own anguish and trepidation. Amidst Victoria's emotional turmoil, she revealed that Tawny was still alive, but quickly dismissed any hope of saving her. Instead, her focus shifted to her own future and how society would perceive her actions. It was a stark reminder of the twisted reality in which she operated, where the gravity of her crime seemed overshadowed by concerns of personal image. For Tawny's father, the news of her tragic demise left him grappling with a myriad of emotions.
Woman allegedly killed by her domestic partner is wondering tonight what went wrong and if something could have been done to prevent the tragedy.
I'm hearing little bits and stories from friends of Tawny that Tawny was living in fear of Vicky.
Police say Tawny Baird was stabbed late Friday night in Ogden by Victoria Mendoza. She's now in jail. Tawny's dad says his daughter seemed happy. She was going to school and working as an accounting assistant, but police say an argument ended with tragedy.
We all loved her, but there was really something was not right.
Now, a friend of both the women told KSL today that Mendoza called him after the crime and admitted to killing Tawny.
And I just kept asking, what's going on, what's wrong? And I mean, she would hang up it happened about 6 times, but she'd hang up until finally she said, I killed someone.
That's Aaron Murray. He said he could tell Mendoza was in shock on the phone. He says she asked him not to call the police, but he did after he learned where she was. He says friends are devastated about the entire situation. Mendoza was supposed to start a new job as a security guard tomorrow. She remains in the Weber County.
As dawn broke on October 18, 2014, Victoria, slated to embark on a new chapter with a job as a security guard, found herself behind bars, entangled in a web of her own making. Deputies from the Ogden Police Department were swiftly dispatched to a parking lot on East Avenue in West Ogden, Utah, responding to a frantic 911 call reporting a stabbing incident.
The address and city of your emergency. I have to report a murder. Okay, do you know who was murdered? Yeah, her name's Tawny.
The location, a familiar spot to Victoria from her childhood days at the Ogden Church, now bore witness to a scene of unimaginable horror. Upon arrival, emergency personnel were confronted with a chilling sight. Tawny Baird, her entire body drenched in blood, sat motionless in the passenger seat of a car. Meanwhile, Victoria Mendoza, visibly shaken, exhibited signs of distress with bloodstains adorning her hands and face. Recounting the harrowing events to authorities, Victoria described a tumultuous altercation that had erupted between her and Tawny during their journey home from a party in Weber County. The disagreement, ignited by jealousy over another man, had spiraled out of control, leading Victoria to impulsively veer into the parking lot. It was there that she retrieved a 4-inch folding knife from her pocket and unleashed a frenzied barrage of stabs upon Tawny. Subsequent to her arrest, Victoria found herself detained in the confines of the Weber County Jail, facing the grim reality of charges for first-degree felony murder. Tragically, Tawny Baird, a mere 21 years of age, was pronounced deceased at the scene, her promising future cut short by the senseless act of violence. News of the horrific incident spread like wildfire, reaching the ears of Tawny's dear friend Lacey, who wasted no time in alerting Dana, Tawny's mother. With a heavy heart and trembling hands, Dana hurriedly checked Tawny's room, only to be met with an empty space devoid of her daughter's presence. As the gravity of the situation sank in, a solemn police vehicle arrived at the Baird family home, bearing the unbearable news of Tawny's untimely demise at the hands of Victoria, a young woman they had welcomed into their lives with open arms. The subsequent autopsy report revealed the brutal extent of Tawny's injuries, documenting a staggering 46 stab wounds inflicted by Victoria. Despite none of the wounds individually proving fatal, Tawny succumbed to the combined effects of shock and blood loss, underscoring the sheer brutality of the attack. The report painted a grim picture, highlighting the possibility of a different outcome had Victoria promptly sought help and applied pressure to Tawny's wounds. During Victoria's preliminary hearing in February 2015, she maintained her innocence, pleading not guilty to the charges levelled against her. She painted a picture of Tawny as the aggressor, alleging that Tawny had physically assaulted her by slapping and pulling her hair, leaving her in a state of fear for her own life. Her defense attorney argued that Victoria's actions were driven by stress-induced anxiety, citing several outbursts during the altercation. Victoria further claimed to feel isolated and persecuted, stating that she believed everyone was against her. She even expressed thoughts of self-harm, suggesting suicide as a means to alleviate the perceived burdens on others. In a final act of self-pity, Victoria lamented the emotional toll of the Baird family's accusations, asserting that their words had deeply wounded her. However, as the weight of the evidence mounted against her, Victoria's lawyer proposed a change in plea to guilty on November 10, 2015. Prosecutors highlighted discrepancies in Victoria's account of the events, particularly regarding her initial claim of driving during the stabbing. The presence of stab wounds on the right side of Tawny's body contradicted this assertion, suggesting that Victoria was indeed behind the wheel at the time of the attack. Furthermore, forensic evidence indicated a transfer of blood from the dashboard, indicating that Victoria had moved from the driver's seat to the passenger side after the assault. Following her conviction, Victoria's sentencing provided a solemn conclusion to the tragic saga. During the trial, Victoria's sister, Cindy Spencer, took the stand and recounted the chilling moment when Victoria confessed to harming Tawny. Overwhelmed by the gravity of the situation, Cindy and her husband rushed to the church parking lot where Victoria had directed them to find Tawny's car. Spencer described feeling deeply unsettled by her sister's distressing admission. When questioned by defense attorney Michael Studebaker about the power dynamics in Victoria and Tawny's relationship, Spencer acknowledged that Tawny held the upper hand due to her possession of the car, phone, and financial support from her family. Spencer also mentioned the use of prescription drugs and marijuana, although only traces of marijuana were found in their system. In her final statement, Victoria, despite acknowledging her monstrous actions, attempted to downplay her responsibility, claiming,
I'm the I'm the monster here.
However, her words rang hollow, revealing a selfish undercurrent as she lamented her own suffering amidst the devastation she had caused. During the victim impact statements, emotions ran high as Tawny's father pleaded for justice, while her aunt questioned why Victoria should enjoy another day of freedom when Tawny could not. Ultimately, the court handed down a sentence of 16 years to life for Tawny Marie Baird's murder. The judge cited the lack of premeditation as a factor in the sentencing, though he expressed a sense of constraint in his decision. Victoria now resides in Utah State Prison with her first chance at parole scheduled for October 2039. The question lingers: is this sufficient recompense for the impulsive and brutal taking of a life? Will Victoria's time behind bars suffice to quell the jealous rages and impulsive tendencies that led to such tragedy? Only time will tell. Casey, Tawny's father, expressed a sentiment of profound anguish, stating, "I don't seek the death penalty. I want her to endure the agony of reflection for a long time. She's slowly destroying me too. She should face another trial, this time for the gradual demise of Tawny's dad and mom. I'll ensure she never sees daylight again. She took away my precious daughter." In 2020, Victoria found herself garnering attention on TikTok and YouTube from prison. Despite being inside, someone outside was recording her calls and sharing them online, prompting gratitude from Victoria toward her supporters. The Utah State Prison swiftly took down the accounts. Victoria's troubled history, marked by bursts of uncontrollable anger, jealousy, and a glaring lack of empathy, hints at deeper psychological issues. Studies suggest that 21% of female inmates suffer from antisocial personality disorder, characterized by a disregard for others' rights, lack of remorse, and manipulative behavior. Whatever afflictions plagued Victoria's mind, they ensnared an innocent girl in a web of addictive, all-consuming, and obsessive love that swiftly turned toxic and violent. Tawny Baird's only fault was falling in love, a choice that tragically cost her life. If this story resonated with you, don't hesitate to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. Stay tuned for more shocking cases, and remember to stay vigilant. Darkness may lurk where you least expect it. Until next time, stay safe. As police delved into the disappearance of 34-year-old hairstylist Jolene Cummings, their focus swiftly shifted to her peculiar co-worker, Jennifer Seibert. Within a short time, detectives unearthed a literal blood trail connecting the 50-year-old Seibert to what appeared to be a gruesome murder. However, there was a twist. Seibert had been deceased since 1987. This marked just the beginning of a series of perplexing turns that would transform this case into one of Florida's most bizarre and unsettling criminal investigations. Welcome to our channel, where we unravel and explore the most enigmatic, chilling, and bewildering cases from across the globe. Before we delve into the details, our heartfelt thoughts and prayers go out to the loved ones of Jolene Cummings, who fell victim to the heinous actions of one woman. Now, let's journey to Fernandina Beach, Florida, a picturesque haven where the sun graces the shores of the Atlantic Ocean and sets over the serene waters of the Amelia River. Once inhabited by the Timucuan Indian tribe, Fernandina Beach boasts long stretches of pristine beaches, teeming wildlife, and a quaint historic seaport town. For many, It's an idyllic escape from the rigours of daily life, or in this instance, an escape from a shadowy and troubled past. In 2018, Jennifer Seibert, aged 50, sought a fresh beginning in Fernandina Beach, finding employment at a local hair salon named Tangles. It marked her 5th job in 6 months, and this time, Seibert hoped it would be enduring. She had spent years evading her past, concealing far too many ominous secrets. Among these secrets was the fate of 35-year-old Kimberly Kessler, who had vanished from Butler County, Pennsylvania in the mid-2000s. Despite 8 years passing before Kessler's family filed a missing persons report, not a single friend or relative knew her whereabouts. However, Seibert harboured the truth about Kessler's destiny, safeguarding it fiercely. Yet, trouble and suspicion seemed to shadow Seibert relentlessly. She perceived a constant threat of betrayal, convinced that others conspired against her, a paranoia that followed her even to Tangles. On May 18, 2018, tensions reached a boiling point between 50-year-old Jennifer Seibert and her co-worker, 34-year-old Jolene Cummings, at Tangles Hair Salon. Jolene seemed to possess an uncanny intuition about Seibert's past, relentlessly probing her with questions and openly expressing her suspicions to their colleagues. This relentless scrutiny pushed Seibert to her breaking point. On that fateful day, Jolene caught Seibert eavesdropping, and when she stepped outside with another co-worker, Seibert deliberately followed, prompting Jolene to confront her directly. Jolene accused Seibert of being fake and labelled her as crazy. Seibert didn't engage in argument, already devising a plan to deal with Jolene. The following day, during their shift at the salon, Seibert struggled to maintain composure, uncertain if she could execute her plan successfully. Jolene's persistent requests for assistance with clients only added to Seibert's frustration. Seibert feigned confusion when approached by Jolene, pretending to be preoccupied with her phone behind a wall. Despite Jolene's cheerful demeanour with clients, tension simmered beneath the surface. May 13, 2018, marked Jolene's birthday and Mother's Day, and she was eagerly anticipating celebrating with her 3 young children. Surveillance footage captured Seibert at a gas station in the early hours of May 13th, explaining to the manager that her facial scratches resulted from an altercation with a friend's ex-boyfriend. She requested to use the manager's phone to call a taxi, citing the need to return to the salon for additional cleaning. Meanwhile, at 1 p.m. on May 13th, Jolene's ex-husband, Jason Cummings, awaited her arrival at a Winn-Dixie in Hilliard, prepared to hand over their 3 children to her custody. On May 13, 2018, Jolene Cummings, a 34-year-old hairstylist, was notably absent, which raised concerns among her ex-husband, Jason Cummings, particularly since it was her birthday and Mother's Day. Jason, worried about her well-being, attempted to contact her, but his calls went unanswered. Eventually, he decided to return home with their children, feeling deeply concerned. Later that afternoon, Jason reached out to Jolene's mother, Ann Johnson, who shared his worries. Ann then reported her daughter missing to local law enforcement. The sheriff's department promptly issued a missing persons flyer and, on the morning of May 15th, visited Tangles Hair Salon, where they sought to speak with Jennifer Seibert, believed to be the last person to have seen Jolene. However, when Seibert learned about the police's arrival, she immediately fled the scene, claiming to have concerns about a stalker who could track her down if her name entered police databases. This behaviour raised suspicion, prompting officers to scrutinise Seibert further. Investigators discovered that Seibert had provided false addresses, and when they located her, she was found asleep in her car at a rest area in St. Johns County. Seibert had bandages on her face and hands, which she attributed to injuries sustained from riding her bike into a tree branch. It was apparent that she had been living in her car for some time. Meanwhile, authorities found Jolene's abandoned SUV in a Home Depot parking lot. Surveillance footage revealed that someone exited the vehicle shortly after it entered the lot at 1:17 a.m. on May 13th, but it was not Jolene. It was Jennifer Seibert. Seibert was arrested for the theft of Jolene's car on May 16th and taken into custody. However, during the booking process, authorities made a startling discovery. The social security number Seibert provided belonged to a deceased individual who died in a car crash in 1987. Fingerprint analysis confirmed that Jennifer Seibert was, in fact, Kimberly Lee Kessler, the missing woman from Butler County, Pennsylvania. The revelation of Kessler's true identity sparked further investigation into her past, raising questions about her involvement in other unsolved disappearances. Kessler's childhood appeared normal until her early teens, when classmates noticed a drastic change in her demeanor, describing her transformation as if she had become a completely different person. Kimberly Lee Kessler's transformation from a seemingly normal teenager to a frightening and violent individual was profound, according to those who knew her. Former classmates described how she transitioned from running with the popular crowd to becoming someone to be feared, with a violent temper and extreme reactions to perceived slights. Ray Wyant, a classmate who observed Kessler's change, described her as scary, noting that everyone was frightened of her. Another acquaintance, Tim Barnes, who dated and lived with Kessler for a brief period after high school, recalled her explosive rages and violent behavior. Barnes recounted instances where Kessler killed his cat with a shotgun, stabbed him in the chest, and assaulted his father. In 1987, the same year of Jennifer Seibert's supposed death, Kessler's brother Bob was involved in a motorcycle accident that claimed the life of his friend. Rumours circulated that someone, potentially Kessler, had run them off the road. Around this time, Kessler began showing interest in using aliases, visiting graveyards to find names she could adopt as her own. Kessler's history of assuming false identities continued into adulthood. She married Xylon Lossy twice in the early 1990s under the alias Melissa McKernan. Later, she dated Tim Edwards, with whom she had a child. She used the name Miranda McKernan but listed Christina Brooks on their son's birth certificate, allegedly to conceal her whereabouts from her abusive family. However, Kessler also told her family that she needed to use fake names to evade her child's abusive father. In 1999, her son was taken into social services custody, prompting Kessler to visit their offices with a handgun in a failed attempt to retrieve him. Subsequently, she disappeared, and neither her ex-partners nor her son heard from her again. Kessler's erratic and violent behavior, along with her propensity for adopting false identities, painted a disturbing picture of a troubled individual with a troubled past, leaving many to wonder about her potential involvement in other unsolved cases. Life after disappearing from Butler County in 2004 was marked by a pattern of transient living and adopting various identities for Kimberly Lee Kessler. During this time, she moved from state to state, taking on different jobs ranging from waitressing to stripping. Her acquaintances described her as odd, unable to hold a job, and often accused of theft. She was noted for her vindictiveness, with a tendency to retaliate against those who crossed her. Kessler's behavior became increasingly erratic over the years. She collected new identities and personas, displaying a chameleon-like ability to blend into different environments while engaging in scams, theft, and other criminal activities. One man she connected with on Facebook recounted how she impulsively drove from Florida to Texas to meet him for lunch, then proposed marriage within hours of meeting. Her extreme jealousy and fits of rage led one ex-partner to fear for his life, prompting him to involve the police and eventually leave town. In 2009, under the alias Jennifer Seibert, Kessler rented a room from a man in Clearwater. She accused him of breaking into her house and urinating on her bed before being evicted. Her behavior at work was described as bizarre, erratic, and secretive, with co-workers feeling that her history was fabricated. In 2014, while training at a Jacksonville hair academy, Kessler exhibited disturbing behavior, such as climbing into a cabinet and asking to keep a piece of sunburned skin. By 2018, Kessler had lived in numerous states, used multiple aliases, and mastered the art of identity theft and disguise. Her employment at Tangle's Hair Salon in Fernandina Beach was preceded by a brief stint at Woody's Barbecue, where her unusual behaviour and eating habits raised concerns among co-workers. Overall, Kessler's post-disappearance life was characterized by a nomadic existence marked by criminal activity, erratic behavior, and the constant reinvention of her identity, culminating in her involvement in the disappearance of Jolene Cummings under the alias Jennifer Seibert. May 13th, 2018, the morning after Jolene Cummings disappeared, surveillance cameras captured Kessler driving Cummings' SUV into a Home Depot parking lot at 1:17 a.m. A few minutes later, Kessler was seen exiting the vehicle, not Cummings. This pivotal moment placed Kessler at the scene where Cummings' vehicle was abandoned. As investigators delved deeper into Kessler's digital footprint, they uncovered a disturbing pattern of searches and behaviours leading up to Cummings' disappearance. Weeks before the event, Kessler had photographed Cummings' appointment diary and conducted searches related to missing persons, bodies not being found, and methods of committing murder. She also looked up information on meth addicts and plastination, a technique used to preserve anatomical specimens. On May 5th, just days before Cummings went missing, Kessler's suspicious behaviour at a boating supply store raised concerns. She purchased heavy-duty zip ties, prompting an employee to contact the authorities due to her unsettling demeanour. Despite Kessler's initial refusal to cooperate with law enforcement and her request for legal counsel during interrogation, the mounting evidence against her painted a damning picture. Her calculated actions, including surveillance of Cummings, internet searches related to murder, and purchasing items potentially used in a crime, indicated premeditation and planning. Sheriff Bill Leeper announced on May 22, 2018, that investigators had reason to believe Jolene Cummings was deceased, and Kessler was being held on a $500,000 bond. The intensive search for Cummings' body commenced as authorities continued to build their case against Kessler. Surveillance footage from the day of Jolene Cummings' disappearance revealed Kimberly Kessler's suspicious activities. After driving Cummings' SUV to a Home Depot parking lot, Kessler was seen at a gas station calling a taxi with scratches on her face. She then returned to the salon where she worked. Subsequent video footage captured Kessler purchasing items from Walmart, including trash bags, gloves, an electric knife, and a large bottle of ammonia. She was later observed struggling to move heavy trash bags to a dumpster near the hair salon. Extensive blood evidence was discovered at the salon, implicating Kessler in the crime. Bloodstains were found throughout the reception area, desk, walls, chairs, cabinets, and sink. Luminol testing revealed blood on a mop and mop strokes on the floor, suggesting an attempt to clean up the crime scene. A tote bag dumped outside the salon also tested positive for blood. Investigators found additional blood evidence linking Kessler to the crime in her storage unit, including blood on her black combat boots, a sock, and a pair of scissors. They also discovered various items, including multiple license plates, cell phones, wigs, and cut ponytails. Kessler's online search history revealed disturbing queries about dismemberment, along with numerous searches related to Cummings' name over a 48-hour period. When Kessler was arrested, deputies noted injuries on her hands, arm, wrist, and thighs, as well as a missing patch of hair from her head and a bite mark on her thumb. Investigators believe Kessler dismembered Cummings' body and disposed of it in a dumpster.
The bags were heavy.
Despite extensive efforts by law enforcement and the FBI to locate Cummings' body in a landfill, they were unsuccessful. Kessler, held on a $500,000 bond, contacted her mother, instructing her to retrieve her belongings, including a motorbike and bicycle. She attributed media coverage to the Illuminati and made bizarre claims during her interactions with law enforcement. Kessler's behaviour, including hunger strikes and requests for relocation to psychiatric facilities, prolonged the legal process. She was indicted for first-degree murder in September 2018, but her trial did not begin until November 2021 due to her disruptive actions.
Now weighing whether murder suspect Kimberly Kessler is mentally competent and whether she'll need to be force-fed. This follows bombshell testimony this morning where those overseeing Kessler's care say she has refused to eat and now weighs 74 pounds, down from 89 last month.
There's a presumption of competence.
Dressed in a jailhouse suit for inmates on suicide watch, Kimberly Kessler appeared cheerful, even slightly smiling at times. It didn't last.
Also assistant public defender.
After being led from view, she turned her anger toward the judge.
A psychologist testified that Kessler exhibited unstable mental health and voiced delusional beliefs.
She has voiced, in my opinion, delusional beliefs that the food is been poisoned.
Kessler's dramatic weight loss, dropping from 196 to just 74 pounds, was attributed to her hunger strike, although she reportedly started eating again after being seen binge-eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. However, Kessler's behaviour has complicated the competency analysis, with criminal defence lawyer Janet Johnson noting that it's challenging to determine whether her actions stem from a lack of understanding or a deliberate statement. Despite multiple competency hearings and courtroom outbursts leading to delays, a judge ultimately ruled Kessler competent to stand trial. Hat Kimberly Kessler's behaviour was not indicative of delusion, but rather manipulation and psychopathy. Despite her attempts to portray herself as mentally ill, jurors recognised her cunning nature. Kessler's actions in the Nassau County Jail were described as traumatising to guards and staff, leading to a sense of relief when she was transferred. During her time in jail, she engaged in disturbing behaviour, including starving herself, smearing feces, stripping naked, and verbally abusing staff. At her court appearances, Kessler continued her disruptive behaviour, making repeated outbursts and accusations. However, despite her attempts to discredit the case against her, a jury found her guilty of first-degree murder based on overwhelming circumstantial evidence. She was subsequently sentenced to mandatory life in prison. During a press conference, Nassau County Sheriff Bill Leeper emphasized the closure brought by Kessler's conviction, noting the chilling impact of her actions on the community. The account paints a chilling picture of Kimberly Kessler, suggesting the possibility that she may have been a serial killer. Investigators discovered a list of over 60 names on Kessler's phone, labelled with disturbing descriptors like Satanist, witch, and evil murderous gang. Among these names were Kurt Christopher Allen, who died in Jacksonville in 2014, and Grace Darling Bartley, who passed away in Kessler's hometown in 2009. Notably, Kessler had stabbed at least 2 men prior to Jolene's murder. Kessler's penchant for disguises may have been driven not only by her mental instability, but also by warrants out for her arrest in multiple states. Her refusal to disclose the location of Jolene's remains further underscores her callousness and lack of remorse. Jolene's tragic death not only robbed her family of a beloved daughter and mother, but also left them grappling with the agony of waiting for justice and closure. Ann Johnson, Jolene's mother, expressed the heartache of this prolonged ordeal, particularly for Jolene's 3 children. Ultimately, the story serves as a stark reminder of the darkness that can lurk within seemingly ordinary individuals and the devastating impact.
When Lucy Blackman, an English tourist, vanished from Tokyo, her friends and family feared the worst. Little did they know, her disappearance would unveil the dark and hidden crimes of one of Japan's most notorious killers. In today's video, we'll delve into the chilling case of Joji Obara. Our story begins in the southeast of England, in the picturesque county of Kent. Kent, often referred to as the Garden of England, boasts a rich history and thriving service-based economy. While renowned for its historic cathedrals and castles, Kent is also gaining recognition for its vibrant food and wine scene. Nestled near the western border of Kent lies the quaint town of Sevenoaks, where Lucy Blackman called home. Born on September 1, 1978, Lucy was the eldest of 3 siblings, with younger sister Sophie and brother Rupert completing the family. Sadly, Lucy's childhood was marked by her parents' divorce, leading her, along with her mother, brother, and sister, to relocate within Kent. Lucy was known as a cheerful child, always brimming with energy and radiating positivity. Her meticulous planning skills shone through in her academic pursuits. After graduating from school, Lucy decided to pursue a career as a flight attendant with British Airways, enticed by the prospect of traveling the world. However, as the years passed, the constant travel and low pay took a toll on her, plunging her into financial strain and leaving her feeling drained. Like many young professionals navigating their first job, Lucy began to reassess her career path and overall direction. Despite her love for travel, the demanding nature of her role at British Airways took its toll on her finances and mental well-being. It was then that Lucy and her colleague Louise devised a plan. They realized that traveling didn't have to entail constant hopping from one country to another. They could settle in a foreign destination, secure stable employment, and improve their financial situation. Intrigued by Japan's unique culture and lifestyle, Lucy and Louise resolved to find work in the land of the rising sun to alleviate their debts. Japan, with its myriad UNESCO World Heritage Sites and deeply ingrained traditions, their decision to embark on this journey was daunting, but they drew strength from each other. They booked their tickets and embarked on their adventure to Japan. In May 2000, Lucy and Louise found themselves in the vibrant heart of Tokyo, settling into an apartment near Roppongi, renowned for its bustling nightlife and fusion of Western and Japanese cultures. They wasted no time in securing employment and soon landed jobs at a local nightclub called Casablanca, where they served as hostesses to its diverse clientele. In Japan, customs and social norms differ significantly from those in the Western world, and host and hostess clubs, known as kyapakura, epitomize this cultural distinction. Hostesses engage in activities such as lighting cigarettes, serving drinks, and engaging in conversation with patrons, creating a welcoming and entertaining atmosphere. While dancing and explicit behavior are prohibited, kyapakuras provide a space for patrons to unwind and socialize in a relaxed setting. In Roppongi, many establishments sought Western women to cater to their Japanese clientele, offering decent pay and requiring strong customer service skills. Lucy and Louise embraced the challenge, eager to immerse themselves in this unique cultural experience and improve their financial situation. As part of Casablanca Club's policies, all hostesses are encouraged to have dinner with their customers before escorting them to the club for their shift, a tradition known as a dohan in Japan. Lucy's parents expressed concern about her choice of employment, but she reassured them, emphasizing her confidence and awareness of her boundaries. She likened the job to being an air hostess on the ground. On the warm afternoon of July 1st, 2000, Lucy donned her sandals and black dress as she prepared to leave. Spotting her friend Louise in the adjacent room, she informed her about her dohan with a customer from the Casablanca Club. She mentioned that he had offered her a new mobile phone in exchange, and the dinner would be brief at a restaurant near the beach. Understanding the situation, Louise advised Lucy not to be too late, as they had plans for the evening. Louise's boyfriend, Scott Fraser, was also nearby, and they were all anticipating the weekend ahead. Lucy kept in touch with Louise throughout the day, sending 3 messages. Her first, at 1:30 p.m., stated, "I am now with my lunch date." At 5 p.m., she messaged Louise again, saying, "I'm being taken to the sea." Finally, around 6:45 p.m., she sent her last message, "I'll be back in half an hour," which she also sent to Scott shortly after. However, by 8 p.m., Lucy had not returned home. As Tokyo transitioned into the night, Lucy's whereabouts remained unknown. Despite informing her friend and boyfriend of her return, she had disappeared without a trace. The situation was daunting. What do you do when your friend goes missing in a foreign city, especially one as vast and unfamiliar as Tokyo? With its population of 34.4 million people, locating one person seemed nearly impossible, especially considering the language and cultural barriers. Louise reached out to local authorities, but initial responses seemed disinterested. Days passed with no sign of Lucy. None of her colleagues at the club had seen her, and attempts to contact her went unanswered. Then, on the evening of July 3rd, Louise received a call from a man with a thick Japanese accent. He spoke English slowly but clearly, informing her, "Lucy can't speak right now. She's okay but won't be returning home. She has joined a new cult and is safe, undergoing training in Hutton Chiba." Back in England, Lucy's mother, Jane, reacted swiftly and intensely upon learning of Lucy's disappearance. The news filled her with terror from the moment she heard her daughter was missing. The anonymous call only heightened her concerns, as Lucy's sudden disappearance was completely out of character. The very next morning, Lucy's sister, Sophie, and her ex-boyfriend Jamie boarded a flight to Tokyo. The challenge ahead of them was vast and daunting. Despite filing a missing persons report, the police showed little interest in Lucy's case. Working with authorities over the following days proved cumbersome and frustrating. They simply didn't seem to care. Despite Lucy being an adult, her silence could indicate a life-threatening situation. Time was of the essence, adding to the extreme anxiety felt by her family. Realizing they were getting nowhere with the local police, they turned to the media instead. They hoped that by bringing Lucy's case into the public eye, it would generate tips and push the police into action. Public appearances in front of the Japanese press yielded results. As Lucy's disappearance gained notoriety and attention, the Japanese public began to offer assistance, though many tips turned out to be dead ends. As the 2-week mark approached, anxiety and hope intensified. The English and Japanese media became fixated on the case, with even Prime Minister Tony Blair and Richard Branson making appeals. Meanwhile, Lucy's family decided to enlist the help of a private investigator from England, who promptly flew to Tokyo. He began scouring the streets of Roppongi and Ginza, eventually reaching Club Casablanca. One of the Western hostesses at the club came forward, revealing that she had seen Lucy with another man before her disappearance. With assistance from contacts at Scotland Yard, the investigator created an artist's impression based on the description provided, resulting in a composite image. As Lucy's disappearance became widely known, several Western women eventually came forward, sharing troubling accounts of their encounters with a man resembling the one depicted in the composite image. As more stories emerged, a disturbing pattern emerged. The man would take the women out on dohans, promising them money and gifts before bringing them back to his apartment, spiking their drinks, and assaulting them. While the name of the perpetrator varied among victims, his physical description remained consistent. A middle-aged man with medium-length hair, handsome, charming, and affluent-looking. The accumulation of accounts, coupled with the police sketch, provided investigators with a solid lead to pursue. However, despite this promising development, no significant breakthroughs occurred. As weeks turned into months and Lucy's disappearance lingered, doubts arose about whether she would ever be found. Over time, public and media interest waned, diminishing the prospects of gathering crucial evidence. Surveillance footage was overwritten, fingerprints faded, and eyewitness recollections blurred. The chances of solving the case seemed increasingly slim with each passing day. In a significant development during the 4th month of the police investigation, officers finally made a breakthrough. As October approached, a key suspect emerged. Joji Obara. Although he frequented Casablanca Club, he used different aliases. Nonetheless, his description closely matched that provided by multiple victims. Born on August 10, 1952, Joji Obara hailed from a family rooted in hard work, which eventually translated into wealth. Joji's father was a Korean immigrant who arrived in Japan with little money but grand aspirations. His unwavering determination and strong work ethic propelled him to success. Starting as a scrap collector, he eventually amassed considerable wealth, establishing a business empire spanning taxi companies, pachinko parlors, and real estate ventures. Joji, along with his 2 brothers, inherited the reputation of being privileged rich kids. Shielded by his father's affluence, Joji was rewarded with a house when he enrolled in Takeo Senior High School in Kanagawa. Unfortunately, at the age of 17, his father sadly passed away, leaving Joji and his 2 brothers over 40 million yen in assets across Osaka and Tokyo, the equivalent to £25 million, or $33 million. After graduating from Ko University with a degree in politics and law, he became a naturalized Japanese citizen, with his brothers moving on to become doctors. But progressing into his 30s, Joji found his everyday job to be tedious and boring. It was around this time, from 1986 to 1991, that Japan experienced an economic bubble, meaning that real estate and stock market prices began to rocket. Joji heavily invested in this, believing that prices would continue to indefinitely rise. But in the early months of 1992, this bubble burst, causing real estate prices to plunge and Japan's economy to stagnate. He lost the risk, and as a result, his firm collapsed, his fortune almost entirely gone. But he wasn't out of the fight yet. Instead, he began to use his company as a money laundering front for the Yakuza, also known as the Japanese Mafia. So, as soon as Joji was recognized as the man in the police sketch, officers began to build a case around him, and of course, keep him under close observation. And finally, in early October, he was officially arrested and charged on 5 counts of indecent assault. therefore allowing officers to raid and investigate his property. Clues. What they found inside was devastating. He had a large library full of videos of himself taking advantage of his drugged victims, with some of these crimes dating back all the way to the early 90s. He had been committing these awful acts of violence for almost an entire decade. Despite police findings and victim accusations, Joji denied all acts of violence and also denied ever meeting Lucy. This is on the contrary to multiple reports placing him in the same bar as her only days prior to her disappearance. With Joji behind bars, but as evidence mostly circumstantial, Lucy's family needed more information to feel comfortable that he was Lucy's suspect. Off the back of this, an international appeal was launched to ask anyone who may have had experience with Joji Ibarra to come forward. 8 years earlier, in February of 1992, he was in love with a woman named Carita Ridgway. In fact, they were engaged, looking forward to spending the rest of their lives together, but things didn't quite turn out that way. Carita was an aspiring actress, but with her dream of making it big, she needed money to attend acting school. Carita decided to pay for tuition by becoming a hostess in Tokyo's Kapakuras, and as part of this agreement, she would go on dohans. On February 27, 1992, Carita attended a dohan with a rich Japanese man, but after this date, she was dropped off unconscious. Carita was rushed to the hospital, in which doctors did the very best they could to save her. But tragically, 2 days later, she died of liver failure. The cause of her death was officially deemed to be hepatitis E, or natural causes. She had no concerning medical history, and she was always clean. The boyfriend contacted Japanese authorities, who, in return, reopened Carita's case with a sharp focus to link her with Joji Ibarra, and the conclusion they were looking for came very quickly. Amongst the 400 videotapes found in Joji's home was one named Carita Ridgway, and in his diary on February 27, 1992, he had written Carita Ridgway, "Too much chloroform." As tragic as this development was, this information was all that police needed to upgrade Joji's charges from assault to murder. And although this fresh evidence was successful in strengthening his role in Lucy's disappearance, it sadly didn't confirm it. But then, in January of 2001, 6 months after Lucy had vanished, a very sad and solemn discovery was made. On January 10, 2001, investigations led police to a cave off the shores of Mira in Kanagawa, and this cave was only 100 meters away from Joji's apartment. While here, they noticed uneven concrete underneath the basin of a bathtub. Rather puzzled, they began to remove the concrete, and what they found underneath were a series of packages. They slowly opened these packages up, and tragically, inside each of them were dismembered body parts, with even the head entombed in concrete. When post-mortem examiners cut into the cement, they hoped to find teeth to match with dental records. But instead, they immediately found one identifiable feature. It was long, natural blonde hair. As you can probably guess, the body was later confirmed to belong to Lucy Blackman. Lucy's family was devastated. The long spell of silence from their daughter already painted a very grave reality for her, but they always held on to the hope that maybe one day she would return. And this discovery would put an end to their hopes. The discovery of Lucy's body would ignite a very long, exhausting legal battle between Joji Ibarra and not just the family of Lucy and Carita, but the family of many other victims too. Joji had now been charged with 9 counts of indecent assault, the murder of Carita Ridgway, and now the murder of Lucy Blackman. But he would still deny having anything to do with Lucy's death, and this was despite her body being found not even 2 minutes from his apartment. Joji admitted that he'd spent the evening with her, but insisted that shortly after 5 p.m. she had left the apartment. Apparently she was high, and therefore he asked her to leave. The entire trial would last almost 7 long years, which was full of disappointing spectacles by Joji. In one of his days in court, he refused to leave his jail cell, and instead he stripped naked, held onto his toilet basin, and repeatedly screamed no. There is some extremely frustrating evidence coming up, but before that, I wanted to share with you that Joji was found not guilty of the murder of Lucy Blackman, which makes the following details all the more enraging. Through the multitudes of analysis, investigators were able to confirm the following. At around 4 p.m. on July 1st, 2000, Lucy met up with Joji. An hour later, she rang Louise to say that they were on their way to the coast. Mobile phone data confirms this. At 5:30 p.m., a Japanese couple saw Joji and Louise together at a seaside resort, and a photo from a camera from Joji's flat confirms that they were on the beach shortly after. Blonde hairs belonging to Lucy were found in his flat, and this was confirmed by DNA analysis. Mobile phone records confirmed that Lucy made a final call in the evening while in his home. This was confirmed by triangulating her mobile phone's coordinates. Copies of a forged signature were found in his apartment, proving that he was the fraudster who'd pretended to be her through a letter. We don't quite know what happened later this evening, but the very next day, on July 2nd, phone records show that Joji had called several hospitals in his area, asking how to treat someone who's experienced a drug overdose. The very next day, on July 3rd, receipts confirm that Joji purchased a chainsaw, cement mix, and other tools from a hardware store. And later that afternoon, police were called by Joji's neighbor, who'd complained about suspicious activity and noise, as apparently they had heard terrified shouting the day prior. It gets even more suspicious. Police reports indicate that late that afternoon, officers arrived at Joji's apartment to request that they look around. Upon entering, they found that he had cement mix on his hands, and he was visibly shaken. When police requested to look in his bathroom, he became aggressive and refused to let them in, instead exclaiming that they'd already seen enough. The police left without pressing this issue any further. Neighbors reported that later in the evening on the same day, they witnessed Joji pacing the small beach next to his apartment several times. And hospital records show that he was treated for extensive bug bites the next day as a result for being outside all night. However, despite the text messages, phone calls, witness reports, police reports, forged signature, mobile phone data, DNA, previous cases, and bug bites, he was still found innocent over Lucy's murder. He was found guilty on 9 counts of indecent assault and the murder of Carita Ridgway, therefore sentencing him to life. But really, the reason for this is the prosecutor couldn't find any of his DNA on her body, and also they couldn't determine the cause of her death, so technically he was dismissed. And thankfully, 1 year later after being appealed, Joji was retrialed on the murder of Lucy Blackman, where he was finally found guilty. But seriously, this should have happened the first time around. At least to me. But this case highlights the show incompetence of Japan's former police force. I know in recent years, they've reformed to become more compassionate and responsive. But back then, they really didn't care about their tourists. A few side notes from this case. While Joji was under trial and not yet found guilty, he offered Lucy's mother condolence money, formally requesting her to stop the trial, for £450,000. Understandably, she refused, but only days later, her ex-husband, which is Lucy's father, took the money instead. Obviously, this caused a massive rift in the family, and I'll let you be the judge on how moral this was to his own daughter. Joji's case is unique. He truly is a deviant and a monster to the highest degree. He assaulted not one, but hundreds of women, and technically became a killer through his own ventures. And despite over 99% of Japan's murderers confessing once caught, he remains as part of the 1% who refuses to accept responsibility and blame. Joji Ibara is a chronic liar who denies any accountability, and obviously, he is used to getting everything he desires. Who knows how many more women he would have terrorized if it wasn't for the tenacity and strong will of Lucy's family in France, all of which even 22 years later continue to live their lives with a hole in their heart. And so concludes the case of Joji Obara, Lucy Blackman, and Carita Ridgway.
In August 2018, Meighan Cordie, aged 27, and her mother Jennifer Weathers attended the wedding of a close family friend in Yamhill County, Oregon. What was supposed to be a joyous evening filled with dancing and celebration took a dramatic turn. While journeying home that night, something unexpected occurred to Meighan. The truth of what transpired is known only to 3 individuals. Sadly, one of them is no longer with us to share their account. Another suggests that Meighan simply stepped out of the car and disappeared, while the third, just a tender 3-year-old at the time, sat in her car seat witnessing her mother for the final time. She was too young to articulate what truly happened. The circumstances surrounding how Meighan Cordie ended up at the base of an embankment along Dayton Road are fraught with discrepancies and deep-seated frustration. This is her narrative. Meighan Cordie was born in December 1990 to parents Jennifer Weathers and Anton Cordie. She had a younger brother named Jacob. Not much is known about Meighan's childhood or upbringing. Her father, who went by Tony, was the former Clackamas fire captain, and she lived in Oregon. Meighan welcomed a beautiful little girl into the world in 2015, naming her Gia. Gia was Meighan's entire world. There was nothing she wouldn't do for her, and the pair were extremely close. Meighan's Aunt Tracy described her niece as the type of person who loved to make others smile. She didn't take life too seriously and would happily act silly if she knew it would cheer someone up. One of the first things people would notice about Meighan was her brilliant smile. As cliché as it may sound, she really did light up a room. On August 18th, Meighan, her mother Jennifer, and her 3-year-old daughter Gia attended a family friend's wedding at Heiser Farms, an events venue and pumpkin patch located in a rural area. Serene and charming, it seemed like the perfect place to celebrate a couple's love with close friends and family. The day before, Meighan and her mom had a disagreement about who would drive to the wedding venue, an unfamiliar area to them. Jennifer suggested Meighan use her own vehicle so she could take Gia back if she got tired and couldn't stay for Jennifer's evening of partying. In the end, Jennifer was the one who drove them there. Whether either of the women had struggles with alcohol remains unclear, but looking back at what unfolded, it's evident that alcohol played a significant role. The wedding ceremony was beautiful, followed by a lively reception. Drinks were flowing, and everyone seemed to be having a great time, except for Meighan and Jennifer, who had been drinking. Witnesses observed the two getting into a heated argument about something. Jennifer, allegedly visibly intoxicated, was described as swaying and rated between a 6 to 8 on a scale of drunkenness from 1 to 10. Definitely not in a state to drive. Around 10 p.m., Gia started to feel tired. At just 3 years old, it's understandable why Meighan wouldn't want to stay at a noisy reception with a sleepy toddler who couldn't settle down because of the music and unfamiliar surroundings. However, Jennifer wanted to prolong their stay at the party. She reportedly expressed to Meighan that her prediction about having to leave early because of Gia had indeed come true. When they left, Jennifer was driving. Meighan sat in the front seat, and little Gia was securely strapped into her car seat in the back. The argument continued inside the vehicle. After driving a short distance, Jennifer stopped, and Meighan got out. Her cell phone pinged in this location, which is how the authorities know this occurred. They carried on arguing before Jennifer convinced Meighan to get back into the car. This time, she was sitting with Gia in the back seat. While on the road, Meighan called her boyfriend, and he could hear the argument still going on between the pair in the background. It was intense, with screaming involved. Some reports suggest Meighan told her boyfriend that Jennifer was drunk. Once that phone call ended, Meighan's boyfriend would never speak to her or see her alive again. According to Jennifer's account to the authorities in the days after this tragic car ride, Meighan, angry due to their argument, demanded she stop the car so she could get out. Jennifer did just that, and Meighan exited, leaving her phone and shoes in the car. Jennifer shouted out of the driver's side window for Meighan, but when she turned the car around to look for her, Meighan was nowhere to be seen. Jennifer then spent the next 30 minutes driving up and down this section of road, looking for Meighan, before deciding to go home, stating that she wanted to get Gia back home. Jennifer believed Meighan either got a lift with someone or made it back to the wedding venue.
Hi, is this a number I call for a non-emergency?
This is the dispatch center non-emergency number. How can I help you?
I'm sorry. My daughter has been missing since last night, and I'm getting kind of worried because she's supposed to work in 10 minutes, and I haven't heard anything from her. We were at a wedding, and she was upset and got out of the car, and I haven't heard from her since, and I haven't been able to find her. I drove around for 2 hours this morning looking for where she got out of the car, and so I don't know if I should call 911 or if I have to wait a certain amount of time.
The next morning, on August 19th, Jennifer wakes up and finds that Meighan is not back. She decides to see if she can report her missing, but doesn't do so by calling 911. Instead, Jennifer dials the non-emergency line. In the call, she states she spent 2 hours that morning looking for Meighan but has been unable to locate her.
No, there's never a certain amount of time that you have to wait.
Okay.
Do you want to report her as missing?
Yeah, I think so.
Where was she missing from?
I've checked the hospitals and I checked the jails, and she's not in either one of those. So the wedding was at Heiser Farms in Dayton, Oregon.
This call has sparked much debate, from Jennifer's choice of words to her tone of voice. While she does appear calm during the conversation, it's important to recognize that people handle stress differently. However, the mention of checking jails and hospitals does raise eyebrows. If Jennifer truly believed her daughter might have been arrested or seriously injured, one would expect a greater sense of urgency. Moreover, once those possibilities are ruled out, concerns typically intensify rather than diminish. Now, there's the worry that Meighan could be injured somewhere, without a means of seeking help. Or worse, she could have ended up in the company of someone dangerous.
And what is your name?
My name is Jennifer Weathers.
And what is her name?
Meighan, M-E-I-G-H-A-N. Cordie, C-O-R-D-I-E.
You know what she was wearing?
She was wearing a, I want to say it was floral pantsuit. It was one piece, short sleeve, navy blue with flowers on it. And she doesn't have her phone. She didn't have her phone. She left it in my car. She didn't have her wallet. Everything was in my car.
Okay, we'll go ahead and have someone get in contact with you, okay?
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
The authorities took Meighan's sudden disappearance very seriously. Exiting a car at night on a dark, unlit road in an unfamiliar rural area seemed like a dangerous scenario. An appeal for volunteers was issued to assist in the search for Meighan, and her image was circulated throughout the local community. 300 volunteers and emergency workers scoured the woods, rivers, and farmlands where Meighan was last seen. Yet there was no sign of Meighan along this route. To illustrate the area's scale, on the day Meighan vanished, she had briefly visited a store where a family friend works, not far from the wedding venue. Meighan Spencer, the family friend, complimented Meighan on her outfit, a blue floral jumpsuit, to which Meighan politely replied, "Thank you."
And she came in and she was in like a floral pantsuit, and I remembered it because we do have weddings down here, but it's not overly common to see a bunch of people dressed up, so I said, "Oh, that's really pretty." She said, "Thank you."
Meighan Spencer was shocked to hear about the disappearance, but not at the fact that someone could go missing in this area. Well, if she was barefoot, and it's 10:30 p.m. at night, it's pitch black down there. There's no streetlights, no nothing, she remarked.
Well, she was barefoot, and it's 10:30, 10 at night. It's pitch black down there. There's no streetlights, no nothing.
By the end of the first day, Meighan's family and friends were devastated to hear that there was no news. She was still missing, and time was of the essence. Given the strange circumstances surrounding Meighan's disappearance and the fact that the authorities knew who the last person she was seen with was, it's not surprising that they wanted to speak further with Jennifer Weathers. But first, they wanted to search her car. They found Meighan's cell phone and shoes in the front seat, where Meighan had first been sitting when she left the wedding venue. And while the fact that Meighan had left her phone was alarming, there was something far more worrying inside the car. A clump of blonde hair in the front seat. The roots were still attached, showing they had been pulled out, not cut. Now it seemed the argument that Jennifer mentioned was far more serious than she had let on. The following clip shows some of Jennifer's questioning, which was done while she was hooked up to a lie detector test. The investigators know that these results cannot be used in court, but they can help point them to the truth.
Yeah, we were in the car.
Okay. And then it got heated in the car?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And, did it ever get physical in the car?
She pulled my hair.
Okay. How far from the venue were you, or was it still at the venue?
No, it was right before she got out of the car. We'd already started driving, and she was yelling at me. And she just yanked my head back. And I slammed on the brakes. And then I yelled at her, "What are you doing? Gia's in the car." And I reached back and hit her arm. I'm sure I must have hit her arm. Just trying to make her let go of my hair.
As mentioned at the start of this case, only 3 people knew what happened that day. We don't know for a fact what parts of this story Jennifer is saying are true or not, but it is clear she is laying all of the blame here on Meighan. People get into arguments all the time, and while getting physical is never the answer, Jennifer seems to be absolving her part of the argument while making it as if Meighan went crazy in front of Gia. From all the sources available, Meighan was an excellent mother to her daughter, and her acting violent in front of her for no reason seems out of character. I also want to point out the long pause between Jennifer's last statement there. This is a classic example of filling the silence. Jennifer is uncomfortable, despite trying to come across as calm and collected. If she was recounting the facts as they happened and she was confident in her recollection or version of events, Jennifer would not have paused for 12 long seconds to add that she hit Meighan's arm away.
And when she finally let go of my hair, I started slowing the car down, which is when she started opening the door and saying, "I'm going to get out." Oh, First, she had called her boyfriend.
You hit her in the arm. How many times?
Oh, I don't know. I just reached back until she let go of my hair.
Okay.
I
Are
don't
you
know.
sure that you were hitting her arm?
No.
You're just hitting something.
I was just reaching back and...
Okay.
I mean, it had to have been her arm because she would have been like this. So, I'm assuming it was her arm.
Okay.
Yeah, but she called her boyfriend first and wanted him to come get her.
What's
And
his
that
name?
was before she pulled my hair. His
Okay.
name is Brendan. She calls him Burr. That's his nickname, B-U-R.
Jennifer tells the investigator that Meighan called her boyfriend and asked him to come and get her, but she does not mention why or when this occurred. Given the wedding guests who said Jennifer was significantly intoxicated, was Meighan worried about how her mother was driving? If she was, why would she leave her daughter in the car with her?
Cursing back and forth at one another and really getting ugly like that. I mean, you're saying that she's...
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, she called him, you know, I want you to come get me, and he must have said no. And then,
Whose phone is she calling with?
hers.
Okay.
And then,
And this is when she pulls your hair not too long after that?
yeah,
What predicated that?
who knows? I have no idea.
Were you guys in the middle of yelling at one another and she pulls your hair?
Yeah, I'm sure.
Okay.
Jennifer's response, "Yeah, I'm sure," shows her recollection of the events that night is not clear. And this will be because of her level of intoxication. If she was sober and the pair had been in an argument, a so-called out-of-the-blue act like grabbing hold of your hair would have stuck out enough to remember what led up to it.
Okay.
Yeah, so then, you know, after he wouldn't come pick her up, and she pulls my hair.
So using derogatory terms towards one another? Would that be
No,
a
I
fair
don't call
assessment?
Meighan names, yeah.
Does she call you names?
Oh, of course. I mean, not of course, but yes, she does.
Okay.
Not like...
Why would Jennifer need to paint Meighan out to be the bad guy in this situation? Her claiming that she doesn't call me names, and then a second later responding that Meighan, of course, calls her derogatory names, is strange behavior for a mother whose daughter is still missing. She has already admitted they were in an argument, but still continues to put the blame onto her missing daughter. This behavior possibly wouldn't stand out hardly if Jennifer's general demeanor wasn't so cheerful. Once again, her daughter is missing.
Trying to get her to let go of my hair. She finally lets go of my hair and starts slowing the car down. She's like, I'm going to get out. And I'm like, you're not getting out. The car, you're not getting out of the car. And I was almost to a stop. And she started opening the door, which is why it was slowing down. And I was almost to a stop, and she just opened it and jumped out. So then I stopped the car and got out and walked around it, closed her door that she had jumped out of, and I was looking for her. I couldn't see her anywhere. I'm calling her name, and she's not answering me. I can't leave the car because Gia's in it. So I'm just calling her name, get back in the car, and I can't see her anywhere. So I got back in the car and turned it around because I figured with the direction she jumped out, she'd be heading the opposite way. So I got back in the car and turned around and tried to find her with the headlights. I had the windows rolled down, and I'm just calling her name, calling her name, calling her name. She's just not answering, and I couldn't see anything.
How fast do you think you were going when she jumped out?
Oh, I mean, like, literally I was almost to a stop.
Okay. Like less than 5 miles per hour?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, because as soon as she started saying she was going to get out and started messing with the door handle, I started coming to a stop.
And you couldn't see her?
Mm-mm.
Did you hear anything when she jumped?
Mm-mm.
You didn't hear an ouch or anything like that?
No. No.
Then you went back to the car, turned around, headed back towards the farm? Okay. What's the child doing?
I don't know.
In case that wasn't clear, Jennifer was asked what Gia was doing. After a long pause, she softly responds, "I don't know." Another lengthy pause follows, and then the phrase, "crying, I would imagine."
So I drove back and forth, I don't know, probably for about a half an hour, trying to find her.
I called Burr at some point, but he didn't answer his phone. And then Gia was crying. Oh my God, I can't believe she was there for all of that. Oh my gosh.
Once again, Jennifer is showing concern for what Gia witnessed, and not for the fact that Meighan is missing.
Is this normal for Meighan to flip out like this?
Not so much recently. I mean, back in the day when I first got divorced and got remarried, it was.
A child saying just leave her about their mother is borderline plausible. When you add that that same child was apparently crying moments earlier at the confrontation she had just witnessed, as her mother left her alone, in the backseat of the car, it's downright impossible.
Did you try and call her?
Try and call Meighan?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-mm. No, I did not.
Why not?
I don't know. It didn't even occur to me to try and call her.
Okay.
I was more worried about Gia and getting Gia home. At that point, Meighan wasn't my focus, Gia was. So I just drove home and I took her upstairs and put her in bed.
Had Meighan done this kind of stuff in the past?
What kind of stuff?
Jump out of your car?
She'd never actually done it, but yeah, she's threatened to before.
Okay. Any more drinking or anything that night for you?
No. Definitely.
Muscle relaxers, anything?
No.
Okay.
No. No, I was so tired already. I was exhausted. I didn't take my makeup off or anything. I never do that. I didn't take my contacts out.
Okay.
I just got in bed with Gia because she was asleep. And I just crawled in with her and cuddled her.
Okay. Did that surprise you that Meighan was acting the way she was acting in front of her daughter?
In front of her daughter, yeah. And that she wouldn't stop.
Okay.
It definitely surprised me. I mean, she hasn't done anything like that before.
No?
No. And usually in text.
Mm.
You know, she likes, she's an angry texter. An instant angry texter.
What kind of stuff sets her off?
Me. Anything I do. You know, she'd done it to me a few weeks ago when I stopped by to pick up Gia. While she was at work. I met her at her work and picked her up. And
where does she work?
Blue Mercury at Bridgeport.
What is that?
It's a cosmetic store with aesthetic services.
Okay.
She's an esthetician.
You'd stop by to pick up
Oh, I picked
Gia.
up Gia and asked her what time she was going to be done with work, and she said 5:30, and I thought, you know, you had told me 5 before, and she was like, yeah, I thought it was 5, but it was 5:30, and I just kind of rolled my eyes, because she does that a lot, like just doesn't know her schedule.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, what? I'm like, well, I just don't understand how you never know your schedule. Like, you're 27 years old.
Mm-hmm.
How do you not know whether you get off at 5 or 5:30?
Mm-hmm.
You know. And I woke up at about 5:30.
On Sunday?
On Sunday, because the sun was coming out, and I got up and I got dressed and grabbed Gia and went out to look for Meighan.
You didn't call her first?
No. No, I had her phone. She had left her phone in the car.
When did you figure that out?
When I took Gia out of the back seat, I saw it on the floor.
After 4 days of intensive searching, the authorities were forced to call off the search. A massive amount of manpower had gone into looking for Meighan, but with still no sign of her in a lengthy radius around where Jennifer said she got out the car, they needed to scale back. Of course, they would continue to work on Meighan's case as an active investigation. By now, a fair share of suspicion had fallen on Jennifer amongst the investigators. The story she told them wasn't making sense, and when her lie detector test results came back as inconclusive, it further concerned them that she wasn't telling them the whole truth. But they would soon have a major development. On August 23rd, the day after the search for Meighan was called off, a group of joggers were enjoying a brisk outing along the quiet Dayton roads when one of them noticed something down a steep embankment. It was Meighan Cordie. Meighan's body was discovered down a steep rocky embankment. Why hadn't the searchers been able to find her? Because Meighan was found 9 miles away from where Jennifer said she got out of the car. This discovery brought a tragic end to a heartbreaking case. Meighan's body was collected from the scene, and transported to the medical examiner's office for an autopsy. The results would show she had suffered significant injuries. Meighan's cause of death was ruled to be blunt force trauma to the head. She had suffered aortic separation, which would have caused an instant death. For the next 30 days or so, there was little to no information from the authorities regarding Meighan's case. That was until they held a press conference on September 27th to give an update on the case. During this press conference, District Attorney Brad Berry detailed the events leading up to Meighan's death and discussed the autopsy's findings. He informed the press that the medical examiner felt that Meighan's injuries were not consistent with being hit by a car, and the lack of damage to her bare feet showed she had not walked any distance. It was also revealed that Jennifer canceled her second polygraph test and from then on stopped cooperating with the investigators. Perhaps the most important piece of information to come out of the press conference was the following. Bradbury revealed the medical examiner believes Meighan exited the car when it was going at a speed greater than 5 mph. However, due to the death being ruled accidental, the district attorney said there would be no criminal charges brought for her death. The investigators and the district attorney believed that Jennifer was driving in the wrong direction after missing a turn when Meighan fell or jumped out of the car. She then hit the ground before rolling down the steep embankment. Shockingly, there was none of Jennifer potentially having sped up right before Meighan exited the vehicle, something that could only have come from Gia. Jennifer Weathers was charged with driving under the influence and reckless endangerment. She went to trial in October, and since Jennifer hadn't taken a breathalyzer test that night, the prosecutors would have to rely solely on the witness evidence from those who saw her at the wedding. She ended up taking a plea deal to drive drunk, facing no charges relating to the death of her daughter. The prosecutor and district attorney were open in their frustration regarding the lack of charges relating to Meighan's death. They publicly stated that Jennifer had misled the police. She spent 5 days in jail and was put on 3 years of probation. Gia now lives with her father in Salem, Oregon, and Jennifer is not allowed to have any contact with her. The latest update in the case came when Meighan's father sued Jennifer for $500,000 for negligence causing Meighan's death while driving under the influence. He also sued the wedding venue for almost $1,000 for over-serving alcohol and failing to prevent Jennifer from driving while drunk. A judge dismissed this after he failed to respond to a motion by the defense. In truth, we will likely never know what happened to Meighan Cordie. This is a case that will forever have far more questions than answers, and based on Jennifer's behavior, she is unlikely to ever come forward to tell a different story.
We're going to explore 5 unsettling cases involving mothers in the United States who killed their young children. The reasons behind these tragic events vary from heartbreaking to downright scary. Let's dive in. Minnesota, Jalissa Thaler. Our first story unfolds in Minnesota, specifically in Orono, on May 22, 2022. Police officers came across Jalissa Thaler's car after receiving reports of a vehicle with a damaged window and a flat tire. During the stop, officers noticed what seemed to be blood on Jalissa and some more inside the car. They even spotted a bullet hole and shell casings, but they didn't detain Jalissa right away. Instead, they drove her home while others stayed behind to check her vehicle. It was then that they made a grim discovery: the body of Jalissa's 6-year-old son in the car's trunk, alongside a shotgun. An autopsy later revealed that Eli had been shot multiple times, up to 9, including in the head. The Hennepin County Attorney's Office later charged Jalissa with second-degree murder. Although her boyfriend was with her during the initial stop, he was released due to a lack of evidence. Jalissa's excuse, as per police reports, was that the blood was from a soft item and the bits in the car were from an animal she had picked up. But how did the police let Jalissa, with her son's bloodied body in the car, go home without raising suspicions? Search warrants in the investigation showed that officers did notice blood, human tissue, and a spent shell casing in the car, but still let Jalissa go. She was later charged with murder for allegedly shooting her son multiple times with a shotgun. Search warrants also mentioned suspected blood on Jalissa's hands, face, and clothes during the vehicle stop. The investigation uncovered troubling details, leaving many wondering how such a tragic event could occur without detection. During the investigation, Baylor, a key figure, grew restless and declined to wait in the squad car. After her release, an officer drove her back home. The Orono Police Department declined to comment on how they handled the traffic stop due to an ongoing inquiry. Following Thala's release, investigators decided to impound her vehicle because of the likely presence of blood and tissue. While examining the car, officers made a grisly discovery: Eli Hart's body in the trunk. Rushing back to the apartment to arrest Thala, they found she had already left, having washed the clothes she wore during the traffic stop. Officers swiftly located and apprehended her. Eli Hart was also the subject of a custody dispute between his father, Tory Hart, and Dakota County authorities. In January 2021, Dakota County initiated child protection proceedings, granting them legal and physical custody. Despite Tony Hart's attempt to gain full custody, the court maintained Dakota County's guardianship. The case was put on hold while the child protection matter was resolved. Thala was awarded full custody on May 10th, prompting the case to be reactivated. Eli Hart's parents were scheduled to appear for a preliminary case management meeting on June 21st. Court documents revealed that social services had concerns about Thala's mental well-being, living conditions, and criminal record. Friends and Eli Hart's former foster mother had voiced worries that Thala might harm her son if granted custody. Sadly, their fears were tragically confirmed, but by then it was too late to save the innocent boy's life. Moving on to California, Angela Flores told authorities that she heard the voice of God instructing her to kill her children. The Los Angeles mother allegedly murdered 3 of her kids because she believed they were possessed by demons. She was taken to a hospital while struggling with medical staff and shouting for her Bible. Angela Flores, 38, was later charged with 3 counts of murder in the deaths of Natalie Flores, 12, Kevin Yanez, 10, and Nathan Yanez, 8. She was held on a bail of $6 million. Flores confessed to attacking her children repeatedly because she believed she could expel the demons from their bodies. She admitted to killing them with the assistance of a 16-year-old boy, identified as her son by authorities. He was also arrested on suspicion of murder, although charges against him were not announced by prosecutors. Police responded to a report of an assault with a deadly weapon at Flores's home on Victory Boulevard around 7:40 a.m. on Sunday, May 8, 2022. Flores's 3 other children, who lived out of state with their father, were unharmed. Neighbors reported that Flores had been behaving erratically the previous night, holding a Bible, screaming, praying, and lighting candles. LAPD Deputy Chief Alan Hamilton stated that Flores was taken to a hospital around midnight, and the bodies of the 3 children were discovered at the home 7 hours later. The fire department responded to a medical assistance request from the police at 12:48 a.m. and transported Flores to the hospital. Authorities have not disclosed the exact details of how the children died. However, it has been revealed that Flores shared details about her personal life in a private Facebook group called LA Mommies, where she disclosed her battle with breast cancer. Flores made her first post on July 20th, 2021, introducing herself as Angela, a mother of 6 who recently moved from Kansas City. She mentioned undergoing breast cancer treatment and expressed a desire to make friends for activities like hiking, going to the Korean spa, having lunch, and going to the beach. She mentioned having 4 children still at home, aged 16, 11, 9, and 7. Dr. Ariel Orion, a Beverly Hills plastic surgeon, disclosed that Flores had reached out to him via Facebook for help with breast reconstruction. He was shocked by the news of the tragedy and expressed disbelief at what had happened. However, he did not confirm whether Flores had been his patient due to patient confidentiality. According to public records and photos on Facebook, Flores had previously worked as a real estate agent and for an event promotions company in the Kansas City area. Court records from Kansas City revealed that she had previously used the names Angela Medina Corona and that her ex-husband, Jacob Corona, filed for divorce in 2005. Despite her past activities and interactions, Flores's actions in killing her children suggest a sudden and overwhelming shift in her mental perspective, as observed by Dr. Orion. Flores's ex-husband, Jacob Corona, shared with reporters that she called him nearly a week before the incident and made some strange comments about God. He expressed concern, mentioning they had been married from 2001 to 2007, but had not spoken regularly since their divorce. Corona recalled that Flores was not particularly religious before, but had started talking about death during their conversation. Despite his doubts, he didn't think much of it at the time. He also mentioned that they have a child together who was not involved in the incident and didn't live with Flores. A nearby resident, Priscilla Canales, recalled hearing a woman yelling about abuse around 10:30 p.m. on Saturday, May 7th. Later identified as Flores, she saw her walk to a neighbor's yard, where she opened a Bible and lit candles. When paramedics arrived and tried to help her, Flores resisted, asking for her Bible. Canales described the situation as disturbing, recalling the intensity of Flores's screams. The LA County Department of Children and Family Services expressed deep sadness over the children's deaths in the San Fernando Valley. On Facebook, Flores described herself as a digital creator, with her last post on May 1st featuring an image of a sign that defines an evangelist. In response to her post, one user commented with a statement that suggested Flores's actions were unforgivable, considering the tragedy she caused without showing any remorse. Meanwhile, in Mississippi, another tragic incident occurred. Michaelia Jolly was charged with capital murder without bail for the death of her baby girl, Khaleesi Lockie Jolly. Police reported that on May 12, 2022, Jolly repeatedly threw her baby onto the road with force. After the incident, Jolly fled into the woods, where she was later arrested by police. The tragic incident unfolded when several 911 calls alerted Pearl Police to a woman who had thrown a baby onto the roadway at 775 North Berman Road. Officers rushed to the scene to find another woman holding the badly injured baby. First responders provided immediate aid and rushed the baby Khaleesi to the Children's Hospital of Mississippi in Jackson. Khaleesi initially remained in critical condition, but sadly, she succumbed to her injuries on Saturday at 4:33 p.m. Surveillance footage revealed Khaleesi's mother running through the trailer park around the time of the incident. The community was deeply shocked and devastated by the tragedy. The initial charges against the mother, Michaelia Jolly, included child abuse and attempted murder. However, after Khaleesi's death, these charges were upgraded to child abuse and capital murder by Rankin County Judge Richard Redfearn. The Pearl Police Department expressed deep sorrow over the incident, with many unanswered questions as to why it happened. Despite the tragedy, they hoped that the legal process would bring healing and justice to the community. District Attorney Bubba Bramlett stated that Jolly could face life in prison or even the death penalty if convicted. Jolly was reported to be on suicide watch while held in isolation at the Rankin County Jail. During her initial court appearance, she remained silent and showed no signs of remorse. Police described Khaleesi's abuse as deliberate and cruel, emphasizing the need for sympathy and justice for the victim. While officials did not provide a motive for the incident, it was clear that Khaleesi's death was a heartbreaking tragedy that shook the community to its core. One neighbor expressed disbelief at the tragic events, stating, "I don't understand." She speculated that something might have gone wrong, such as postpartum depression, as the mother seemed to be a caring parent. She struggled to comprehend what could have led to such a terrible outcome. In another horrifying incident in Philadelphia during the same month, a woman named Trin Nguyen, aged 38, shot her two sons at their duplex residence on Timber Ridge Road in Upper Makefield, Bucks County. The boys, aged 9 and 13, were critically wounded and later pronounced dead a week after the shooting. Investigations revealed that Nguyen had planned the killings in advance, as evidenced by a handwritten will found at the scene dated more than a week before the tragic event. Despite efforts to save them, the boys succumbed to their injuries at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, where they had been transferred from St. Mary Medical Center. Following the tragic shooting, the charges against the mother were elevated to first-degree murder for the deaths of her sons, 13-year-old Jeffrey J.T. Tinney and 9-year-old Nelson Tinney. District Attorney Matthew Weinstraub condemned the act, calling it unconscionable and horrific. He vowed to pursue justice for the victims. In an updated criminal complaint, prosecutors revealed that Nguyen had written a will dated April 25th, outlining instructions for an unnamed recipient regarding the boy's ashes and her own, suggesting she had contemplated taking her own life. Additionally, a search warrant on Nguyen's 2018 Toyota Sienna uncovered a handwritten note urging the reader to call 911 as her children were dead in their bed at the Timber Ridge Road residence. After the shooting, Nguyen attempted to flee, but was disarmed by her landlord's 22-year-old son, Gianni Melchiondo, who wrestled the gun away when she tried to shoot him. Police reported that the gun malfunctioned twice. Nguyen then fled in her van, briefly crossing into New Jersey before returning to the area. She was arrested hours later in the parking lot of the Washington Crossing United Methodist Church. During her initial arraignment, Nguyen denied fleeing from the home and claimed she had gone to New Jersey to obtain narcotics, which she later ingested in a suicide attempt. She informed investigators that she had not previously used drugs. A search warrant was executed on the minivan, leading detectives to discover .38 caliber ammunition, several empty and full suspected heroin packages, and swabs of suspected blood, among other evidence. Before attempting to shoot Melchiondo, Nguyen asked him to take a box of photos to her ex-husband, Edward Tinney. Melchiondo, who is Tinney's nephew and resides in the other half of the duplex with his mother, Karina Tinney Melchiondo, the property owner, intervened in the situation. Multiple law enforcement agencies, including Bucks County detectives, Upper Makefield Township Police, Lower Makefield Township Police, Newtown Township Police, Newtown Borough Police, and the Central Bucks Crime Scene Unit, were involved in the investigation to locate, guide, and secure the scene. At around 11:30 a.m. on the day of the murders, law enforcement found Nguyen inside her minivan. She was taken into custody and then transported to St. Mary's Medical Center due to indications that she was under the influence. According to court records, Nguyen was facing eviction in the months leading up to the shooting. She owed more than $11,000 in back rent to Karina Tina Melchiondo, the property owner. As part of a property settlement, Nguyen had been allowed to temporarily reside at the duplex with her two boys until she found a new home. However, she stopped paying rent, leading Melchiondo to initiate eviction proceedings last November. Nguyen was scheduled to be evicted on May 3rd, the day after the shooting occurred. Nguyen was also reportedly involved in a custody battle with her ex-husband, who expressed concern that she might use money from their divorce settlement to take one of the boys to Vietnam and not return. The two boys, both students in the Council Rock School District, were honored during a vigil at the Washington Crossing United Methodist Church. Prosecutors did not provide additional information on why they believe Nguyen might have targeted her children. In addition to the first-degree murder charges, Nguyen faced additional charges, including attempted homicide, a weapons offense, and possession of a controlled substance, as indicated by court records. Nguyen was arraigned before Magisterial District Judge Michael W. Petrucci on 2 counts of first-degree murder, along with 1 count each of attempted homicide, possession of an instrument of crime, and possession of a controlled substance. She was incarcerated at the Bucks County Correctional Facility from the day she was charged with attempted homicide and was denied bail due to the premeditated nature of her offences. Now, on to our final and most senseless case. In Illinois, on Saturday, September 11, 2021, a woman named Fallon Harris, residing in the Chicago South Side area, shot her 12-year-old son. The tragic incident unfolded during a court hearing where Cook County State's Attorney Eugene Wood alleged that the ordeal began mid-morning Saturday when Harris confronted her son about a missing digital memory card she had removed from her car the previous Friday night. Wood did not disclose the contents of the memory card. According to prosecutors, the situation escalated when Caden, the son, informed his mother that he didn't know the whereabouts of the memory card. Allegedly, Harris then pointed a silver revolver at her son and fired a non-fatal shot to his head. Wood stated that audio evidence retrieved from the home security system indicated that the first gunshot left the 12-year-old boy conscious and crying. Police alleged that while Caden was lying on the floor, Harris took a phone call and then returned to demand the memory card once again. According to Wood, an incident captured on the security camera showed Caden informing his mother again that he didn't know where the memory card was. It was then that she fired a second fatal shot at her son. Subsequently, Wood claims Harris called 2 family members and confessed to them that she had shot her son over the missing memory card. Those relatives promptly notified the police, who, along with the boy's father, met officers at the crime scene. Upon their arrival, Harris allegedly confessed to the shooting. Family members affirmed that they informed the police about Fallon Harris's call and her confession. The family stated that Harris had been exhibiting paranoid behavior for some time leading up to the tragic incident. When responding officers arrived, they found the boy lying on the kitchen floor with multiple gunshot wounds to his head. Caden was rushed to the University of Chicago Medical Center, where he was pronounced dead, according to Wood and the Cook County Medical Examiner's Office. Several hours after the shooting, officers were seen entering and exiting the brick house, some carrying bags of evidence. Tearful relatives later arrived, consoling each other across the street from the scene. Harris was subsequently charged with first-degree murder. She was denied bail during a brief court hearing, during which the judge ordered her to undergo a mental health evaluation. According to prosecutors, Harris possessed a concealed carry license and owned 2 guns. Lavelle Ingram, the boy's father and Harris's estranged husband, informed reporters that there had been concerns about her mental state for some time. Ingram mentioned that Harris had attended her first therapy session ever on Friday, the 10th of September 2021, just one day before the alleged murder. "We didn't know this was going to happen," stated the boy's father. "We had urged her to seek help. I guess it finally reached its boiling point. She loved Caden more than anything in the world." Despite their separation, Ingram revealed that he and Harris had remained close for the sake of their children. Ingram shared that Caden was passionate about pro wrestling, anime, video games, and history. He expressed his grief saying, "I'm losing a young god. I'm losing a young genius. I'm losing everything I had in this world." Everything would directly acknowledge Harris's mental state, noting that family members reported she had been displaying paranoid behavior and complaining that people were out to get her. Harris was disruptive and combative early in the hearing and later broke down and appeared to cry when she was allowed to speak. In the hours following her arrest, Wood said Harris broke down in tears and asked, "Can I talk to my mama?" Judge Mary Marubio ultimately ordered Harris to be held without bail, as Wood had requested. Marubio also signed the healthcare order, allowing Harris to be evaluated. Meanwhile, Ingram said he feared his estranged wife had grown detached from reality. He stated, "I don't think she even understands what happened." Ingram called for more awareness and preventative treatment for mental illness in the aftermath of his son's loss. So what do you think could drive a mom to kill her kids? Is it mental illness, pure evil, or just evidence that some women shouldn't be allowed to have or be around children at all? Share your thoughts on these 5 inexplicably evil cases in the comments section, and share and subscribe for more episodes of Senseless Crimes Uncovered on Mysterious 7. Stay safe, friends. Until next time.